Council for discussion with Mark Bushhouse from Williams Architects. Let me briefly walk you through what you see on the board here, which pertains to the Council's top priority action item related to the development of a facilities sustainability plan. This section provides an overview and describes the process that we laid out back last year in 2015 that includes the following components. Identification of the issue, discussion and determination of resources to be committed to the project, discussion of options, which is where we are right now, ultimately working toward the development of a plan as we get close to the preparation of our budget in August and September of 2016. Here we are at the beginning of March. We did allow some time toward the end of 2015 where we went through the process to hire an architect who came in and evaluated the space needs for village facilities. We're of course talking about the police station and Village Hall, where during the issues discussion we presented information and well documented the systems and operational deficiencies in both of the buildings. In addition, the police station is too small for the operational needs of that department and that facility. Village Hall is too large and laid out in a very inefficient manner to support the operations within this building. During this discussion on resources, the council ultimately determined that the project should move forward with a $16 million total project budget, relying on existing revenues and focusing on the existing sites that we're on right now. Again, after the work that was done once Williams Architects was hired, determined the approximate space needs that these departments, that the police station should have and that should be in Village Hall, approximately 38,000 to 47,000 square feet in the police station, and a range of between 16,500 and 21,300 square feet in the Village Hall, which really refers to the active departmental uses that occur within that building. And when you put all of this together, it really represents the key challenge that we are facing in trying to address as many of these systems and operational and space needs, deficiencies and challenges that we face with the $16 million budget. And so when we met back in January, this really was the focus. There was detailed information presented on how these space needs broke down for both of these buildings. And we concluded that meeting by stating that we would bring back information reflecting these three options that showed replacement of the systems and the associated costs for both of the buildings, replacement of the systems and remodeling of one or both, and finally replacement of the systems, remodeling, and in addition to the police station. I will note, and as reflected in the staff report prepared for this discussion, option 3, when you consider the improvements to both facilities, does far exceed the amount that was originally budgeted and does represent, again, highlights the key challenge that we face in trying to address these issues with that budget. So it's with that backdrop that I'll turn it over now for some discussion. I did just want to emphasize 3 key points before doing so. This is really the first time that in the years that we've been trying to address this issue, that the Village Council has been in a position to have discussion with concept plans, cost estimates, and an assessment of what it actually achieves for us with a professional at the table that can assist with the design options. Secondly, the options discussion that we're having now is really just the beginning of this phase of the process. It is expected to take several months as we continue to refine and evaluate the options going forward based on the input and discussion of the Village Council. And what we wanted to do tonight was simply create an environment that allows for a productive conversation between the council members and Mark Bushhouse of Williams Architects so that we can sort of glean and understand the input provided in further refining and improving upon the options that have been presented so far. So I'm going to turn it over to Mark Bushhouse, who's the principal and managing partner with Williams Architects, to provide a few preliminary comments before moving into discussion, and then we'll certainly allow opportunity for input from the community as we wrap up. Mark.
Thank you, Mike.
Good evening.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all for having me here this evening. And I haven't heard all those parliamentary things before in quite some time, so it was a good update. So this evening, we were tasked to follow through on those three options and prepare some concepts and budgets, and then be able to talk our way through these things. The first option is going to be a brief one, or I'll go as long as you want, but that was simply, again, looking at the two facilities, look at the heating, cooling, plumbing, electrical system problems that exist in both buildings, evaluate the plausible and likely work that would be required to replace and upgrade those systems and the cost that would go with that. So we've done that, and not to our surprise or your staff's surprise, or probably not to yours, we've come up with a cost range independently doing our own work that ended up very close to the studies you've had before. So it's not new news, but it is a good verification of work that's been done over the years to look at this $10+ million cost to simply keep these buildings operating in their current layout and form. Option two also is a pretty straightforward one. It is what I just talked about in option one. However, we would go a bit further and look at and determine, are there remodelings that could be done within the buildings as they currently are sized, to determine if there are some things that we could do that to improve operational efficiencies, address some of the other issues that the village is dealing with in these buildings. In the police side, as we review this and certainly talk with your staff, to go into and start remodeling the police station, if the budget and the goal is not to add on to that building, it was fairly quickly determined that to remodel that building without an addition is probably money not well spent. You talked about tearing up a road and then coming back and tearing it up again later. It is our recommendation that the village should wait to remodel the police station until it can actually address the space needs and do both at the same time, due to the incredible efficiencies of doing them at the same time versus two separate projects. However, the village hall, as been said before, already has more square feet as a building in total than is needed to meet the needs for your village hall uses. We did do a very simple conceptual idea that does keep the council chambers at the same location, basically configured like it is, because it is different levels and would be a more expensive area to really tear apart and rebuild. But by keeping the council chambers in this diagram here about where it is, we would then work around that to make the kind of layout and design improvements that would increase the operational efficiencies, increase security for staff, and really improve service to the customers who would come into the building and be able to find restrooms, to be able to have good windows with staff there ready to support them. And then internally, for staff usage, one of the concepts that we've been working with your staff on, that's one of those and items that I found very exciting about Downers Grove, is can we actually use less square footage and end up with a better facility? And that's been one of the challenges that your staff has had with us as we've been getting into this project. And the answer is yes, in that one of the things that your village is doing is moving forward with use of technology so that the need for people to nest in one office and have it large to hold all the paper that they use day to day is rapidly being, at least it is being addressed here. And therefore, we're looking at providing very small offices and only offices where needed, having a significant number of open workstations, and then grouping a nice zone, and we put it here sort of central, of various types of meeting spaces. So these could be rooms that are more open to allow more cross-pollination conversations, private meeting areas, things like that, so that we are encouraging staff to come to one zone, to all the meeting spaces. It takes up less square footage. It does allow more options, and it also, it really is going to help your staff meet with each other and accomplish their work in a more efficient way than sort of the maze that they're in right now. And then working from that, then we also, look at the front entry lobby areas, meeting rooms with the public, restrooms, and then the two departments that have the most direct involvement with them would be community development and finance, so they're there and close to each other. And then on the backside, getting past these meeting areas, we have the other groups of the administration and your information systems, building and facility maintenance, and lunchrooms. So it's sort of pinwheel around this council chambers in a layout that we truly believe, and good reason to think, we are going to improve efficiencies and provide a better, more flexible village hall, all within the footprint of your existing building. So with that, there are some more dollars added to the village hall side of the budget to not only replace these systems, but make these important changes to really address these operational deficiencies. So that's option 2. If there's any questions or thoughts on that one, again, at some point, we'll go into some more dialogue, but I'm trying to get some information out there for you.
Sure. Why don't I suggest that you just continue introducing the materials here, because that probably makes sense. Then folks can jump in wherever they want to jump in. I know everybody's taking a look at everything, and probably have 7 people here with 14 different opinions. And I'll apologize in advance that clearly we've been at this long enough not to take anything personally.
No, I don't. Ideas are what they are, and
Can we go back to option 2 for a second?
oh, absolutely. Let me pull that back up here.
Well, I just want to say that option 2, as presented with respect to the Civic Center, to this building, seems, well, it's not, I think it seems a very reasonable way to make this building more efficient. So I think option 2 as is, now the problem with option 2 as is that it does nothing to address the police deficiencies.
Correct.
So, just to maybe add a little bit when you go to option 3, I'll just make this comment right now. In the entire Civic Center, I believe this room is the one with the least deficiencies. So why would we demolish the room with the least deficiencies, as we're trying to, quote, save money, end quote? So the idea of going with option 2 as presented, and we can pick up, we can haggle the numbers, maybe see if we can save some dollars here and there, and then solve the police deficiencies in a much more efficient way than what has been presented in option 3. Mm-hmm. The long-term goal is to fill in all these ovals at the lowest possible price. Mm-hmm. And I think that moving this room impedes that. That's just my opinion. Yeah. That we can meet we can satisfy all the police deficiencies, fill in all these ovals, and I think moving this room is kind of the linchpin of why we might end up being a lot higher over budget than we would like. And I think of all the rooms in this building, this is probably the room with the least deficiencies. So why move it? Why change it?
That gives us good direction for things to explore in the next cycle. So that's a very, very good point. Anything else before I cycle this thing around again? No? All right. Moving on and do some description here of what we're looking at and some of the whys and the benefits of option 3. Stepping back to a site plan here, in the yellow areas, you see the existing police, the existing village hall with zones that we're believing we don't need to and don't want to spend the money to remodel them, so staying in the main functional area of village hall. The focus here is to provide the square footage, first and foremost, that the police department needs. And as we discussed at the last board meeting, providing important spaces for the police and having that happen in the village hall is difficult in that, for one, it's an essential services facility, and therefore that building has to ascribe to certain structural requirements that we don't believe Village Hall likely is built to withstand, the kind of wind speeds and things like that. So keeping police in the building that was built for being police is an excellent idea, and then adding onto it spaces that are necessary and adjacent will maintain and in fact improve their efficiencies. So as we looked at where to add on to this, things that were, driving this are, what's common sense? How can we take advantage of some innovative ideas that are being developed these days by us and other organizations for police, and maximize, again, the combined campus of these two buildings so that we, as has been said, we build the least that we have to. So in looking at how to add on to this building, we looked at the 4 sides, And the east side was the clear winner for a number of reasons. One, it does begin to help us connect to Village Hall so that the flow back and forth is more obvious and simple to do. Second, adding on the west side, there is the detention facility with its sally port, and if we build here, we basically have to destroy all the work that had been done to have a sally port and a detention area, and we start over, and that's expensive space to replicate. To build on the south side of the building, at least a two-story addition, we're really getting into some setback issues and causing some problems with the flow of vehicles, forcing them all to either go through the building or everybody parks way down here for patrol, and they may have a longer distance and waste of time getting to and from the building if you're a patrol officer. Going to the north, now we're slamming right into the visitor and commuter parking lots and staff parking lots in a way that isn't very helpful, and we now have lost the advantage of this site, which is it slopes down. This is high on the visitor parking lot and low on the south side, which really allows this building to operate the way it does today of upper level office, lower level other functions and patrol, and they each can be accessed to grade, which is a very good, efficient way to do it. So it was done with some real good thought in its day. So that leads us to seeing that this addition is by far, so far, best located on the east side, 2 stories, and some sort of link back to Village Hall for efficiencies of connecting things back and forth. Now, some of the things that the police department has, and I think we can look at a couple of floor plans that we've done very roughly here, going inside this police station of its existing and added area. I'll start on the lower level. This is the lower level of the building. This side is the north side. It's sort of underground on this side of the building, and the parking for visitors is toward me. On this lower level, right now, it is built to have a gun range tucked up against the ground on the north side of the building. There is some locker room areas here, some other staff uses, and a garage on the south side, which nicely hooks out to the existing parking lot. What we have discovered in the approaches that we're doing here with the police department is, one, the common sense idea that you've built a gun range, let's not go build another gun range. And talking with police and looking at opportunities for equipment changes and different kind of bullet traps and targeting systems, there's a high degree of confidence that we can refurbish this gun range to be a current standard facility based on how police officers train today with their weapons, so let's just reuse this. Secondly, this center core area, is a lot of plumbing there right now where locker rooms have been, and yet what can we do to make this a modern, future-looking locker area? Well, one of the ideas that I think is actually innovative that's coming to force right now is to provide, instead of having the traditional male locker room, female locker room, separate showers and zones for those two sexes. Now there's a strong push, and it's happening in fire departments, which was happening at your station too. It's happening in public works facilities, and I think its time has come to happen in police stations, where you simply have a unisex locker area where every officer, male, female, or otherwise, can get to their locker in an open area. And these now can be the big lockers that really hold all the equipment and gear and uniforms that they have. And we can do that so everybody gets the same lockers. We're not concerned about male-female ratios. But then what we do provide is a number of smaller rooms that are like a hotel bathroom. There's a toilet, there's a shower, there's a sink, and a changing area. And these are, again, can be used by either sex or any sex, so that folks can change individually, and we disperse them between ones that have showers, ones that are only toilets and lavatories with a changing area, and some that are just dry changing areas. The idea is we can get this done in less square footage with fewer plumbing fixtures. Everybody can use whatever room they need to, and the reports we've gotten back from the fire and public works facilities that have been incorporating this have been very positive, and staff and those organizations have really embraced them. And your department, police department, has looked at this, and they feel the time is right for them to do this as well. So this is an excellent, innovative idea going in the center of the building where it's replacing an older, out-of-date thought.
Okay, I want to jump in and just make one comment about this. At a first pass, the yellow portions of the diagram, I don't have anything to criticize or complain about. I think actually, as long as the police are content, you know, as again, first pass, I'm not an architect, but the first pass through, there's nothing in the proposed yellow remodeling that I would have a negative comment about.
Great, thank you. And there's a sally port on the upper level. Underneath it right now is a staff lounge, which is sort of an odd place to have a finished space under a garage, so you always have to fight the fact that there might be drips coming through from a garage area above. Well, we thought, why not put a garage below a garage? And now this could be a garage for the evidence area, and then remodel some spaces in here to be used by them. It would greatly expand the square footage that we currently have now, provide an excellent processing area, and we have to have a higher level of security storage for certain items that they store as evidence. And amazingly enough, or wonderfully enough, significantly the walls and the rooms that are needed to do that are already there and configured and built out of good hard concrete blocks. So it's again, another good fit. And then finally, the garage space here, it is a garage, and of course, to remodel a garage into a garage is exceptionally inexpensive. So all good thoughts about how to reuse this. In the addition area here, things that are working, again, strongly in your favor is that since this is up into a hillside, we're looking to provide an operations center or your 911 dispatch in a new current code compliant space. In that, in 2015 building codes, in response to all the tornadoes that ripped through Missouri and some other places in the central part of the country some years back, they have significantly increased the necessary protection from tornadoes in certain facilities. Essential facilities like a police station is one of those, and dispatch centers is almost like first on their list. Not that schools aren't, but in the kind of context of what we're talking here today. So to provide the village with a dispatch center, or your operations center, in a location and in a structure that can withstand 250-mile-an-hour winds, that's Category 5 tornadoes. And that space has to be designed so everybody inside is safe when that tornado has gone through. And that's not small. That's a very, very high requirement that's now in the codes. So to have a dispatch center that can handle 250-mile-an-hour winds, to have it up against a hillside and partially covered or surrounded with earth, is an excellent place to put one of those. And also, in fact, they don't like them below grade. So the good news is it's not below grade. You have at grade access to the south. So this is a fairly wonderful and reasonably unique opportunity to provide such a well-protected space in a less expensive way to do it than normally would be necessary. If you put it just up on top, you really have to do more to protect that. This also, this dispatch center can also provide the necessary place of refuge for the entire police station as an essential facility, again, to protect them against a Category 5 hurricane or tornado. Other areas that can go down here that would work very well is the patrol offices. These are the sergeants, lieutenants. This is roll call. This is where officers come in and do reports and keep their files, and such that this is a great spot because that is, on the path for patrol officers. It has great daylight opportunities. And of course, it allows the sergeants and so forth to look out the windows and see where the vehicles are and who's coming and who's going. So the wonderful news is this is a lot of ands here for the village to provide a significantly better facility and function and meeting the needs for your department on all these patrol and dispatch requirements. One of the things that we have talked about in the past is what about the dispatch? Could it go upstairs in Village Hall? We discussed last time that the ability for Village Hall as a long-term solution to meet these kind of Category 5 tornado requirements is not really plausible. However, the great news is, and your dispatch or operations people have been looking at this, Village Hall used to have the 911 dispatch center in it, and therefore it is a great location to go temporarily while this facility is being remodeled and added on to. It's a pretty unique opportunity that a village would have two locations that's wired up to be your operations facility, and you could move to the old one temporarily, get this work done and bring them back, thereby getting them out of the construction zone, because one thing you don't want to do is have contractors cut wires and shut off your dispatch center. So this is again another great opportunity the village has to leverage things that already exist. Any questions on the lower level of either the existing or the addition?
All right, although in that situation, VOC would have to move twice.
Yes, it would.
Move out, set up,
Right.
move back.
Correct. However, either that or they have to stay in the building during construction, which
Right.
has significant risks to it.
We're not really adding much vehicle
Inside the
Total
garage.
vehicle parking,
Right.
not adding to that.
We are looking at that out in the parking lot to at least put some covers over some areas where cars are parked for patrol, so at least we keep the ice and snow off of them, so they remain clean and ready to be used. And by keeping the vehicles also out of the direct sun in the summer, we're going to greatly diminish the tendency to cook the computers inside. So, working with your police department, they believe that if they had this many vehicles parked inside plus covered parking outside, that, again, being cost efficient, and you can't have everything you want, but this approach is enough to be a very satisfactory solution for them.
A number I'd like to see at a future meeting is what would the cost be to put the VOC space where it is there, without anything else around it? Just build the VOC all by itself
Okay.
into the hillside
All right.
with the 250-mile-an-hour wind protection and everything else.
All right.
But that's its own addition all by itself with nothing, with no second story on top, and the other needs would be met somewhere else. I'd like to know what that number would be.
Thank you. All right, we can do that.
So another thing that seems like, I recall, as being a targeted goal some time ago that doesn't seem to be addressed anywhere here is any kind of, at the fire station too, we've got some workout facilities, training kind of facilities,
Right.
physical training kind
Right.
of facilities. It looks like it's absent here, is that right?
That is correct. When we were doing the space programming work in December, among the items of debate that were done with village staff, including police, was where on the priority list for the departments is having an exercise space to be included in the facility. And I think at that time, staff gave the opinion to us, and we included in our space program, that they could still go and use Station 2's, Fire Station 2's workout facility, because again, that was designed and sized to allow other departments to come and use it, so it could continue to function that way. Not that having one in the facility wouldn't be a helpful thing and a nice thing, but again, needs and wants, I think that discussion landed more on that would be a want.
We also talked about Village Hall, and you hit that option. We actually thought Station 2 wasn't a good idea.
Right.
It was too far, can you talk about the option?
That's right. And also, since there are some areas on the eastern side of Village Hall that we're not looking to remodel very much, there are some zones in there that we could throw some mats and exercise equipment and maybe improve the ventilation some, so at least, we ventilate it well, and that could become more of an exercise space versus building a new specialized one at a higher cost.
Obviously, this is, the whole conversation is needs and wants.
Right.
But there's also, if we think that that's an important part of our, the environment and the culture we're creating, which I think it is for a number of reasons, risk management is certainly one of them as well. Whether it's being used now by Station 2 or not, it just seems unlikely to be a real good answer.
Okay.
Because if you're here for 12 hours, you're gonna make another stop.
Fair question.
I mean, it's a different animal when you have to go outside.
So what we could do then, in the next time we come back, we could look more specifically at the option of taking an eastern portion of Village Hall and seeing how that could work as an exercise space to address that directly. Or, again, depending on your folks' direction, we could look at the space program and consider adding a space to the building to allow an exercise room at the police station. So whatever you can ponder that and at some point give us direction on that.
And actually, to jump ahead a little bit, that same question can be asked about meeting rooms and training rooms.
Right.
Which are more generic, more vanilla, don't need high-value buildings to have a conference room.
Mm-hmm.
So is there room in the existing building here towards the east, which under option 2 is going to be left largely unused, at least a portion of the building, where everything on the second floor of the orange is then relocated, so that there's conference rooms and meeting rooms and places to gather, like with the exercise, that doesn't need an expensive building.
Certainly an option, we will explore it. That's a good point and good idea. And then you can weigh the pros and cons of the dollars and what it gets you. I can tell you that as we were doing the programming work with your staff and looking at what could plausibly be located as part of the addition to the police station, there are a strong need by the police department to have a good training room because they have a lot of academic training. They also do a fair amount of physical training, takedown training, self-defense tactics, things like that. And that has to be a flat room to, flat floor. They can't be sloped in campus. They can't have built-in chairs. So we need to find a place to have that. They also, having a space like that, they bring in other departments, and they have, they're called NEMERT classes. These is where multi-departments come in and do week-long trainings, and they happen regularly. So the concept that was thought about was if we need to provide the police department a training room that accomplishes all of those things, how big does that look like it needs to be? Should it be attached to the police station? Is that space and how it's used considered part of the essential facilities category? Again, there's gray area there and what falls into that category and what doesn't fall in that category. The codes don't try to tell you. They say if you do a police station, it has to be it is an essential facility, and therefore the whole building has to be that way.
Well, on that specific point,
Right.
In your experience, how difficult it is to remodel a garage to provide those types of
Spaces?
spaces? For example, if you need mass in the gymnasium, my understanding is that the ceilings in there are more than 8 or 10 feet.
Yes, yeah.
And you want a large, open, flat area.
Right.
Looks like a large, open, flat area to me.
Right. So we could certainly explore that concept where we could put some exercise space or some other uses down there as
And
well.
training,
right.
physical training.
Right.
Yeah.
So excellent points, and Mike's taking notes, and we'll add that to the list of things to work on. So those ideas, plus the idea that to create a municipal campus entrance, so that if you're a member of the public coming into the building, or you want to meet and you're not sure where they are or who they are yet, you can come into one main entrance. There would be a public meeting space for you there. If council is holding their sessions, you can go right to there. There are the central public toilets in that location. And then, if that's not what you're coming for, you can easily either get to a sub-lobby for police to talk to them about the issues you may be dealing with, or you can go the other direction and go and talk with the specific departments of the village hall, and again, a smaller sub-lobby that will be located within this existing building. Believing and seeing that would be a good opportunity to simplify the use of these buildings by the public and create, if there's a place that most times the public appreciates and where most municipalities are willing to go the extra mile on their facilities, it is in the main public meeting spaces, because this is where the citizens gather with their elected officials and staff to debate, ponder, and make their decisions. So while the back office areas where staff works and gets the basics done, they're very simple office areas. Whereas you can see this space here is a significantly level above, and its finish and setup, which is another reason why you might want to leave it here. But obviously there was more money spent on this area than the other office areas of the building again, because of the way it's used and the citizens that come here. So if it was intelligent to do a training room combined with a council chambers and have it in the main public space and a main new entrance, that was the thinking behind the addition at this point, and substantially what would be on the upper floor. There also would be some smaller meeting rooms to meet with the public for various department people that could come and use that. So police could use it and Village Hall could come use this. So this was more of a public hub of the building, and then separating out into more specialized areas of the departments. So that was the thinking behind that basic approach.
Could I comment on that just at this point?
Please do.
I mean, from my perspective, I understand and appreciate the point you're saying, this public hub. However, my main concern here, well, one is the cost, and I think the cost, this third option, coming in significantly over the original budget was a major concern of mine. But when I think about that from a general concept of this, one out into some sub-lobbies, and it sounds to me like there's a lot of hallway space, be a lot of open space, sort of non-usable space where people will be walking in a hallway to get to certain sub-lobbies and things like that, and that's something of concern to me. Okay, well, I'm to be honest, I'm not quite as concerned about if there's a separate entrance for the police station or the village hall as the interest of, okay, well, can we reduce the amount of space that we might need?
In the
especially-
addition, right?
Right, in any sort of addition.
Okay.
And then the other piece I just wanted to inquire is the connection between the two buildings, the idea of connecting the two buildings. How do you see that as, both from a cost perspective and then also from a functionality perspective? How would that how would we receive significant incremental value?
Okay.
for that?
I think some of the, well, one item, I'll address that question first, but there's another thought about council chambers and its location. But the link does begin, actually, the link provides for the ability for staff to be moving back and forth and doing some sharing of spaces so that we can be much closer to the normal needs of meeting spaces in each facility, so that in general terms, most days, they can walk quickly to a meeting room in their own building and get their work done and get back to what they need to do. Police obviously has a higher need and desire for some security and privacy for the kind of meetings they hold, so we'd like to have enough general meetings space for them that most of the time they can meet in their own. But by providing the link, we can now say, look, we can make these number of meeting spaces much closer to the average use as opposed to closer to a peak use. And therefore, if Village Hall is having an exceptional number of meetings that day, there may very well be some meeting rooms available over in police, and they can shift a meeting or two over, and they still can get their work done in an efficient way, and vice versa. So we think the link will ultimately pay for itself, one, in providing more efficient movement of staff back and forth, and the averaging down of the number of meeting spaces you may need. So we think that that can be a very helpful thing. Let's see, what was the other?
How do you view that as terms of a cost? Because obviously that's, the link itself is just
It's a hallway.
a hallway.
Right. Well, again, if we can build fewer conference rooms, there is a trade-off in space, so that can have, one square foot for another. I think square footage-wise, it's going to help keep us in a tighter range. And so, again, back to staff efficiencies, being able to quickly walk back and forth during inclement weather. It isn't get all bundled up and head off to a meeting at police and then reverse that when you come back. You're all connected, and it tends to improve their efficiency and conversations between them.
Where I'm at right now, though, is that in this building, there's plenty of space. So is it cheaper to give village staff in this building more conference room space in the unused area than it would be to build a joint purpose room in between the two buildings? And would it be cheaper to, a lot less expensive, save the taxpayers money, to simply, if there's not enough conference room space in this building, move into the vacant portion, make another conference room? And I think that type of remodeling, in my sort of amateur opinion, would not be excessively expensive.
Okay.
So therefore, we give the police everything they need in their building. We don't worry about sharing space. And let's go back to the campus concept. Emotionally, that's appealing to me. However, I don't think even a $25 million budget is going to give us a campus that's going to be sufficiently impressive to please the community for the extra money. And I don't think the community has any interest in spending more than that. So to create like a grade B campus, because we need a campus, it's not worth the extra money. And that's just my opinion, that to have one campus-style building, that we have two buildings, and we need to check off this list as close to $16 million as possible.
Good points.
Yeah, what you're basically saying, and I guess the question on the table there is, if you look at because on the other hand, it makes no sense to spend between $11 and $13.5 million and not fill in any of the circles for the police station. That's crazy.
The problem is we don't have enough columns on this sheet right now in order to make an intelligent decision.
So the point is there a way to use existing space to fill in those circles? That's really what I hear you saying.
And we need more options.
Right.
I think there's some very real options that haven't been costed out yet. Since they aren't costed out yet, we can't make an intelligent decision.
This is now the night, this is a night about, here are some ideas, let's generate more ideas, and
Exactly.
you guys are doing an excellent job of that.
And to pick up on the theme of a lot of unused space, the other thing that kind of screams out of this whole project is we have an awful lot of space that's not being used And one of the things that I know the direction was of this council was to use existing resources. I see a whole bunch of resources on this map that aren't being used. Not just building space, space. I see a lot of real estate that's not being used to help support this project.
But given the ability of Lyle to sell their civic center, I'm not going to count on that as being any great source of money. It might be, but
I'm
I'm not
not
gonna count on that.
saying count on it, but it's just laying there fallow.
To some of the points that Commissioner White's made, I agree with him when it comes to the space here for the council chamber. I don't see any need to move it, and I'd actually go one step further. I'm not interested, I'm going to be completely blunt here, I'm not interested in remodeling Village Hall and not solving the operational problems that we've got.
Absolutely.
The police station. I think that has to be priority one. So I would much rather replace systems here, the plumbing, the roof, the HVAC, whatever needs to be done, so that we can continue to leave this as a usable space and solve the problems that the police station has. Because I see those as very significant operational challenges. I mean, if we have sensitive interviews going on in essentially public spaces, that's a big problem. The fact that we haven't had an evidentiary issue in terms of chain of custody and whatnot, despite the fact that we're storing evidence in 3 or 4 different places, is fairly remarkable, and I think we need to solve that challenge. These are the things that I think have to be priority one, and I'm willing to wait on Village Hall in order to get that done.
Totally agree.
No,
Well said.
whether it's shrinking the common space, I'll leave that to the architects to draw it all up, but the PD is priority.
I think so too. I think the police department is priority. And I don't think we should blow our budget. I think there's a lot we can do with $16 million. I think we need more creativity, figure out what we can do with this building.
I'm hearing you. So the good news is if we, looking at an option that keeps council chambers here and this building substantially as it is, and just replace systems or roofs as we absolutely necessary, and then focus our money on the police, again, that does help shrink this addition noticeably. Now, it may not shrink as much as you think because, you know, the room that was the council chambers and training room, over 50% of the square footage of that is the training room. And then we have a section that gets walled off that has the dais and, you know, those kind of appointments. So, but certainly it does begin to shrink this, and that's all good, and those are real dollars saved. So, and of course, if we don't look at a link, because if we're not going to remodel Village Hall, bringing a hallway into an odd location in the building doesn't help us. Now we'll have yet another entry into Village Hall, one on the south, one on the east, and then one on the southwest. So, yeah, that's a good point, and that's a good option to look at.
And you know, how exactly it ends up looking is of less concern to me, whether it's a campus feel or not.
Right.
I want it to be functional for the things that the police department needs to do.
How much stock do you place in this?
The costs, I did it myself. I think it's pretty good.
Kind of a little setup question, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
But I don't think anybody at this table, or probably anybody in the audience, is going to disagree with what Greg just said, from a priority standpoint. But I'm not sure all of this is priority kind of exercise. I think some of these things are mandatory expenses in my mind. And so as I'm looking at least at this first blush, if I'm understanding this table right, if you took care of your operational issues at the police station, you're talking about $15 to $18 million.
Right.
So whether or not you remodel Village Hall, you still have 5 to 7 in purely repair of existing. So the two of those things together, if you did nothing but fix the broken stuff, so to speak, at Village Hall,
Right.
and took care of the operational issues at the police station, you're looking like $22 million.
Well, I'm nervous about talking about that without seeing the detail. To do that verbally, I think that discussion should be postponed until we have, because I'm not sure how much further we can go until we get those numbers written down on paper.
That's why I was asking about the accuracy as well.
Well, but
We could
no,
have
no,
100
it's
different-
what's
100
missing from that page is we can't talk about.
There are other options that haven't been explored and budgeted.
Exactly.
Correct.
The first column options, though, are not, that's what I'm getting at, those aren't options. Those, the first column are not
Oh,
options.
of course, and that's not in dispute.
So that, okay, but that's like $10 to $12 million out of 16. I think we're
No,
kind
it's
of
not. It's
skipping
not that
past the
much.
sense of magnitude here.
We can't talk about how much, this goes back to whether $16 million can be met as a budget. And I'm not prepared to have that discussion until I have more data. I won't have the discussion without more data,
I agree with that.
because it's purely hypothetical. So, and this was not intended to be one meeting, it's intended to be 3 or 4 meetings. So we can't accelerate into this meeting what probably should be discussed only after all council members have the appropriate data regarding the other options.
Well, I think you guys are talking past each other. I think all Bob was saying, I mean, clearly, I think.
No, he's trying to argue that we have to spend more than $16 million and we should make that decision this evening.
No, that's not what I heard at all. That's not what I heard at all.
I didn't say that.
Let's back up a minute. What I heard, number one, is that I think all of us would be interested in figuring out, is there a way using existing space, existing buildings, to get some of these colored in? And those options aren't here. I think everybody would like to see that.
Right.
I didn't hear any dispute, anyway, so they don't want to see that. All I heard Bob say was that if the numbers are accurate, then just fixing everything, forget about use of space, forget about everything else, just fixing everything is between
Between nine and
9 and almost $12 million. That's all he said. He wasn't arguing.
And if we stop there and draw no other inferences from that, I'm totally fine.
That's all I heard.
I thought it was important to point that out. The mayor heard what I intended, I'm sorry you didn't, Phil. And I thought it was important to point that out as a follow-up to Greg's comment, because I suspect all of us would like as a first priority, if it's a wants prioritization exercise. I don't think anybody's going to argue against wanting to prioritize solving the operational issues at the police station. Does anybody?
No. So it goes back to, let's see the option that takes existing space in both of these buildings and tries to see if we can get this filled in.
Right.
That's what I think everybody would like to see.
So one of the conversations we'll have with staff then is what level of meeting spaces can we pull out of police and put in existing village hall, because the square footage is there, without having a real negative impact on the operational efficiencies of the police
exactly.
department.
And that we don't know either.
Right.
We don't
So
know what the pros
we
and
can-
cons are.
We can wrestle
of that.
with them on that question and come back with, does it allow us to shift some space uses over?
Right.
Is that
Because-
feasible?
Right.
And we don't have the data on that
Right.
tonight.
Well, nor the expertise, nor the background,
Good
because you have
question.
7 civilians sitting around trying to figure out whether police function is going to be done out of this building.
Right,
And we don't know that, but I think what we're hearing is that everybody would like to know what is possible.
right.
And if for reasons such as it's got to be a hardened location, you can't do it here, you have structural issues, okay, I get
That's a
that.
good reason.
Right.
That's a good reason.
Right, but there might be some spaces that could, so good points, and that's an.
I also am sensitive to the fact that you don't want to have basically the police department split between zip codes either.
Right.
I mean, we could use space here, but you don't want to have people having to literally run
Right.
on golf carts from one side of the campus to the other. That doesn't make sense either, but I don't think we have that level of detail to understand that yet. That's what I'm hearing.
I guess what I'm saying is I think we kind of reached the end of what we can do productively without more information.
Could it,
Well,
Let's just put it that way.
you're more advanced than the rest of us. Others might have questions.
Commissioner Waldeck, do you want to come forward?
Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to make one brief comment before, and just to support this idea of looking at garage space. I mean, my sense is that building new garage space would be much cheaper than building, new space for other purposes. It's my general sense.
Again, that's a question being addressed to you.
Right.
And the answer will come back.
Correct.
I mean, I've been, some of the stuff I've said, we're very clear about this. I've raised a number of ideas, but it's not because I think it's a good idea, it's because I'm asking you
Very good, yes.
how these numbers work out. And for example, the VOC built into the hillside, I'm like, okay, that's a really good reason. Okay, done. That's a good reason. So those are the types of
No,
things.
those are good questions, and these are good things to explore and bring back and add to the information that you can all look at.
Yeah, I think that, to me, that's one of those items where I see is like, okay, this possibility, this quick win. The idea of, the one question I wanted to ask was regarding this locker, this proposed concept locker space. Is this taking up less room in this proposed configuration than it currently does? Is that?
It's taking up noticeably less than what it would take up if we gave every officer an appropriately sized locker, and we did it in the standard way of a male locker room and a female locker room. That is what it is noticeably smaller than. Whether it's smaller than the existing area they're using now, I think actually we're probably taking a little more of that lower level for locker room uses than they are right now, because they're just, the lockers are tiny right now, and you take a 1-foot locker and you turn into a 2.5-foot locker, and you multiply that by 80, and you got to have handicapped accessibility, movement around that, you've changed that dramatically. So larger than it was, smaller than it would be with the traditional approach. So all good ideas.
Mr. Waldeck, I cut you off. Did you want to?
No, you didn't cut me off at all.
You haven't started.
Yeah, that's right. No, where I was coming from, I mean, this originally started at a $52 million project, and we're getting it down. I look back at our fire station two, which was between $9 and $10 million, but as was pointed out to me, and as you mentioned, a lot of that is garage space.
And
So it is cheaper. And that was also, a number of years ago, so costs are going to go up. My priority is the police department, not so much the village hall. We need to, keep the roof from leaking, the heat as best we can, keep this functional. But, my priority is the police station. The unisex idea is a good one. I know when you draw things out, you make, you can have meetings here and you can have meetings there. And what I'd like to know is, when you're drawing all this out and you say, you can have a meeting room here and you can have a meeting room there, are they really going to use it? I don't want to spend a lot of money on meeting rooms that aren't going to be used. You have a large room and then you have 2 people in there discussing things because you have all these meeting rooms. And, I want to keep everything usable and being used. Fitness center, I know you need a training area both for classroom and physical, but I really wonder if we do need an area for workouts, for keeping in shape. Could we outsource that? Could we pass the liability for injuries while people are training onto a third party? There'll be gyms, there's gyms locally, there's, you got a good Sam Center. Are we better off having a group membership rather than building out something where people can work out and get hurt and have us assume the liability? That was just some quick thoughts.
Yeah, and those are more of the operational questions that we need to hear.
Yeah.
Whether there's special reasons that can or can't be done, because as lay people, we don't know.
But the police.
My working
station
out and the
people-
police force working out are 2 different things.
So.
I guarantee it.
No, I know.
But looking at a fire station a few years ago with a lot of garage space at $10 million and trying to do something that's necessary for a current state-of-the-art, because this isn't, we don't want it to last 10 years. We want, also has to plan ahead for the next, 30, 40 years, 50 years, whatever.
Right.
You want it to last a long time.
But
And do we also have to pay for it all right now? We did with the fire station, we had bonding, that did go out. Do we hit current residents with the bills now, or do we spread it out so current and future residents are all chipping in? How many people really question, saying, how much am I paying for that fire station over there? It was a good investment. And we don't hear much about that anymore.
I hear a lot about it.
Well, yeah, but, you don't, at the time you build something, you can make it look nice and be proud of it, and not everything has to look like a former Joliet State Prison.
Right.
So, there's trade-offs, and, if we're going to have another large clock or some ornamental thing on there, that's something we could discuss and cost. But you want it to look nice and to be sustainable for decades.
So I just want to comment on that point is that the sustainability for many decades is something I agree with. The idea, it's something we hear, or at least I hear about in the community. I mean, when I'm in the community talking about the issue of facilities in general, is that, oh, well, that Taj Mahal fire station, and that's not what I'm seeking, here. I mean, obviously we want the most value, and we want the most efficiencies, and we want something that's going to last. But, from my perspective, I don't need to be, this shouldn't be an item where we're saying, oh, well, this is going to be, the most beautiful village hall in world history, or, in northeastern Illinois even. This is a very functional space for our staff, and this is a functional space, the police station, village hall, very functional space for what we needed to do, both now and obviously looking towards the future. But to me, I think we need to be careful as not to be seen as trying to build some massive, thing that's unnecessary for what's really needed. And that's what from my perspective, I think this council chamber is fine. I see no issue with it. Works fine. We're sitting here tonight. Works great. Okay, so we don't need a new council chamber, but there's clearly some other areas where we do have some needs.
Well, I don't see anything on the table that's going to make the cover of Architectural Digest, so I think you're safe. Might need the creativity award, but I don't know if it's going to be in the cover of
We are not budgeting to.
any aesthetics.
Create some
Any aesthetic
whole
award.
new aesthetic here. This
Not even
is,
close, not even
these are
close.
very functional budgets.
That's not even in the room, much less on the table.
Yeah.
Look nice and functional, not aspirational, not award-winning.
Yeah, well,
Architecture.
we're not even there yet. We're looking at
Yeah.
space and we're looking at functions. Aesthetics aren't even in.
But I'd like to make sure
I'm
that
not
when
prepared to
you,
have that conversation.
when you're breaking out meeting rooms, I want to make sure that we're just, wouldn't it be nice to have a meeting room and another meeting room and another meeting room, How many of them do we really need?
Well, if it helps you some discussions we had in December is, again, the offices are all very tight. The offices are not designed, none of the offices are designed to actually be also held, to be used for meetings. They are simply a place for one person to work, and maybe one or two people to come in and have a quick, have a little conversation. These are not big rooms. So therefore, staff to meet and talk through their day, they will need conference rooms, small ones, but they'll need them scattered around and nearby to make the movement efficient and quick, but they'll need a number of them. Now, the good news is, by taking space out of all the offices, we've garnered up enough square footage to give ourselves some meeting rooms and still end up building a little less building. So it's an approach that creates a lot of flexibility, a lot of options, and so if you see a higher number of conference rooms than maybe you would normally see in a village hall or police station, it is because of this innovative approach that your staff is excited about taking that shifts the usage to ways that frankly a lot of private sector clients are moving right now, because they see it happening.
Right. And the other thing
Just don't want to build something that isn't,
No, isn't
you have,
used,
that
right.
isn't going to be used.
Right.
with all due respect, I think we're way beyond that
Yeah, you're-
conversation. The needs have been well vetted. They've been vetted since 2006. I don't think there's a whole lot of debate there in terms of what it is that's being needed. I think we need to go back to, let's focus. I've heard anybody suggest that we shouldn't figure out, is there a way to use existing space better to meet the needs?
Mhm.
And I don't think we're talking about having too many meeting rooms. I think we're talking about meeting the circles that were identified and have been over and over and over again for many years in multiple councils.
And I would supplement that to the extent, and it's going to be in the police station, because there is enough space in this building to meet the needs of the civic center. But with respect to the police station, if there is not sufficient space, and I'm persuaded there's not sufficient space, okay, then what's the least expensive way we can give them the space that's needed to properly fill in those holes?
Right.
Because they're going to need an addition.
And-
The police station needs an addition.
And can
that's my point.
any of that be done in existing space here, understanding the unique operational challenges of that?
Very sen- yeah.
That's what we don't know.
Yeah,
It may be that you can't just park somebody over here, because there are operational reasons why that doesn't make sense.
And I fully agree that, I think there's a high probability that's true. You know, so, I mean, I
Well,
think
we have to see it.
we have to look into it.
Agree completely.
Since we're on this discussion, I mean, when I look at this list of with these ovals, from my perspective, this, D5 under the Village Hall, you have multiple public access points. From my perspective, that's, to me, that's a low priority of any of these issues. I mean, I can understand.
We're talking about B and C.
Oh, D.
No.
I'm talking about
D5.
D5. D is in David.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm saying, but our focus was, let's fill in B and C.
I understand that, and I agree with that. I'm in 100% agreement with that, but I just, given that Mr. Bushhouse and others and staff are going to be working on all this, and I'm sure, looking at multiple options, I just wanted to get that out there, to be very clear.
I heard everyone say they'd trade off everything in D to get B and C.
I also agree with that. That's something that I do agree with. But I think I just wanted to, make that very clear.
Now, on that point, actually, another piece of information that could be helpful if we talk about staging this is, with respect to option 2, that pertains only to this building. I would like to know what additional costs would be incurred that if we did option 1 now, and then did option 2 in 3 or 4 years. Is there anything in option 1 that, if done, would make it more expensive to do option 2 a couple years down the road? And I'm not judging where I will go with that. I just would like that information.
Okay. Right.
Well, that's a good point, because, is there some value in doing the what's necessary, this like immediate need type stuff now, or, right away, and then perhaps waiting or, doing more as a pay-as-you-go on some other stuff, or,
But if doing an option 1 thing today will then materially increase the cost of doing option 2 down the road, that's a piece of information that'll weigh very heavily in how I make my final
I
decision.
totally agree.
To pick up on that, since everyone is unanimously in support of making sure that we commit our dollars to solve the police station needs, it would be A, that pertains to the police station, and then B and C.
And option 1 for the Civic Center, which is
Well, let's just
not negotiable.
let's set that aside for a moment. If there's more concern about, let's make sure that we take the dollars that we have in hand and get the stuff done that we know we need for the police station, which is kind of what I'm hearing from everybody.
There is,
To the extent that there's more, if there's more speculative sources of revenue, then maybe those can be used for Village Hall stuff. Because if they don't pan out or they don't surface, then you don't do it. If they do,
Yes.
then it's leveraging existing resources. So what I'm suggesting is that they should perhaps consider using our hard, certain dollars to take care of the things that we've all agreed are the highest priority. And to the extent that there are things that may pan out or may not pan out that allow other things, that be relegated, if at all, to additional things at Village Hall. Because if it doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen. And we still take care of what we know we need to take care of. But if it does pan out, because there are opportunities of using existing resources, which includes land that we own, that could then be used to do more with Village Hall, then I think that would be something that might be more palatable.
And not doing it essential systems now that make that more expensive later.
Yeah, I'd like to see that too.
Is part of doing that to keep our options open
Sure.
later.
No, that's
Then,
great.
an option for us to look at, the dollars budgeted for Village Hall on these systems is budgeted at a level that says we are going to fix this for a long-term approach, okay? If I'm hearing today, is the question, is there a short-term approach to keeping Village Hall dry and heated and cooled for a period of time, that money isn't wasted necessarily if you came back and did more remodeling on Village Hall, but could at least keep the rain out and keep the heating and cooling up at a better level so you're not dependent on an 80-year-old boiler that could go at any day and now you're completely out of action. So we could.
Bless you.
And
that might take
true to tell us that won't work.
Right.
Or maybe it will.
Right. That
I
means
agree with that.
So I think we might
I don't know.
want to pull our engineers back in a little here and challenge them with us and look at these systems a little more carefully and say, is there, a way to do a shorter term solution that's not money wasted if they stay here a long time? Now, of course, if you demo the building, then I can't help you, but, you know,
Well, right, obviously, that would be wasted, but if there was something that would be a shorter-term, reasonable, non-wasteful expenditure that would allow for the village hall and other space, not police station.
right.
That would allow the exploration of other options that would include leveraging existing resources or maybe even partnerships, that would be something I think
I
was.
probably shouldn't share this anecdote, but I think it's funny. We put a very major addition onto our house. And the day that I got the building permit, I got a letter from my insurance company. If you don't fix your roof, we won't insure you next year. So because I had pushed the roof, I wasn't going to reshingle the roof.
Right.
And then pull a building permit. So I got this letter saying, these are the 3 things you have to fix, or we won't insure your house next year. I said, well, that's good, I got my building permit this morning.
Well, that's good, good time.
But that's stretching it to the, you know, I wasn't going to put money in.
Right.
That I was going to, that would be tore up when I went and did, when we went and did the whole project.
Right. Excellent approach. All right, so we've got, oh my gosh,
So what,
I didn't look at that list for a while.
all right, Mark, so what, we'll take a break, and in a couple hours, you'll have all these answers.
I knew you'd come up with some new good ideas, I just didn't think you guys would be quite
Couple
so
hours plus a few weeks.
excellent. And ladies, so that's good. All right.
Other thoughts, comments? I mean, obviously, clearly, we're not deciding anything tonight.
No.
We're not even necessarily
Close to deciding.
deciding on a path. This is the first time we've been able to see some drawings and whatnot. We can get some more information. I think we may have some more options. I think it's been a good conversation. Does anybody else want to add anything or ask Mark any questions? Or, God forbid, ask? Okay, never mind.
Public comment?
Hearing nothing at the table. Any comments from anyone, or questions or comments from anyone in the audience?
Yes.
We have a microphone somewhere, don't we?
Yes. In the future, would it be possible to get the drawings displayed visually?
Yeah, that's a good idea. We can probably put them up here.
Okay, so we can see that. And it's just my idea that you've got 2 distinct, different projects here. The police department functions 24/7, 365 days a year. That should be #1 priority. Trying to link functions of the police department to the village hall, which 5 days a week, maybe 9 hours a day, it's open,
They were longer than that.
it's going to be, just cause more problems.
You very well may, and I think that's what we're looking at. I understand the desire to try to utilize existing constructed space rather than building new space, but we may find that the operational issues are, as you say, just too much of a problem.
Say, give the police department what they need within reason. You know, they don't need a Taj Mahal, but good quality infrastructure for them. The idea of the link, maybe it would be nice to have, but I'm guessing that you're looking at well over $250,000 that could be better spent improving this structure. So, you know, it just, priority #1 should be the police department. And if we don't have enough money to complete this project, then maybe you go to the community and say, hey, we've done all of this, we just don't have enough. As Commissioner White said, we're going to wind up paying to do things over and over again by dragging it out. We have to borrow a little bit of money to complete the project, let's do it.
So simple.
Hey, I'm going to film that and put it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Thank you for the comments. Other questions or comments? And the drawings are all on the website, but you're right, it would help for the conversation to be able to,
Have them up.
because when you're pointing with your pointer mark,
Right.
we don't have an overhead camera. it
That's
isn't-
right.
Yeah.
Well, why not?
Yeah.
Todd?
There's a
all right.
deficiency, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're on
Come on.
camera.
Bob?
Get on it.
Bob's wants to say
I just
something.
wanted, John, I just wanted to follow up and make everybody clear, this $16 million is 14.5 borrowed. It's a bond issuance for $14.5 million. It's not money we have. So it's just, you know, Bill said money we have, David said maybe we do something pay as you go. You suggest if we don't have enough, maybe we borrow a little. This borrow is $14.5 million out of the 16.
Mhm.
Just also are out there.
But just to add, that's correct, but to add on to that, the revenue, there are revenue streams identified that would pay for that debt service. So it's not as though that 14.5, we'd have to go find new revenue for it. That's supported by existing revenue streams. So yes, we're bonding out to get the cash now, but we have existing revenue services that would pay that debt service with no new
Because old
No new
bonds are
revenue
retired.
Generating revenue.
Old bonds are
So yes, we're
retired.
leveraging existing revenue streams to get more money earlier, but it's not going out to have to find new sources to pay for the debt.
And that comes because old bonds are retired.
I hope you don't need a motion to tell me what to do tonight.
No,
Sorry if I...
no.
All right, let's
this-
try to summarize this.
No, no.
I already got the hand signals. I already got the hand signals. I already got the hand, no, we already got the hand, and that's not debatable. We already got the hand signal from the stage manager that there's sufficient information from this. Any questions you have?
No, this was very helpful. Thank you
All
for
right.
your attention and real involvement here. This
Then
is
the only
excellent.
thing that's left is item 14. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
So, second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
there you
None.
go.
Thank you for watching, thank you for your interest, thank you for participation. Good night.
I'm sorry, move previous question on emergency.